Welcome to RVing in New England, the nation's only forum that puts you on stage with some of the biggest names in the RV industry. And now your hosts, John DePietro and Bob Zagami.
You know, I gotta change that so it says Bob Zagami and John DePietro.
I like it the way it is.
You do?
I do.
Well, that's understandable. Welcome to RVing in New England. Must be Wednesday night. Must be 7 o'clock. And
it's so great to be back. And you know, that intro said some of the biggest names in the industry. And tonight we have at least one of the biggest names in the industry, our guest Monika. And you know,
when she comes on, we drop down about 10 spots on the totem pole.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing we were saying this morning when we were doing another show, we said one of the cool things about the industry is that the people that are up at the top of the food chain are regular old normal people. And we're talking about Bob Martin and Mike Happy and Bob Tiffin, and you know, any more names I should drop? You want to drop?
Probably Craig Kirby. Monika's boss.
Yeah, right. Always a little brown nosing with the boss of the guest.
Well, we were recording a session on the Power Breakfast, which is coming up again in May. Always a big item, always a sellout. Just continues to amaze me. And it's all industry people. It's a trade event, but you get about 1,200 people to go to breakfast at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Show starts around 7:15, and they're all back in their office by 10:30 or 11. So it's a great day.
They have off those styrofoam plates, you know, eggs and sausage, but they have those cool cinnamon donuts. There's some bakery in Elkhart. I don't know what it is, but I eat healthy. I just go 100% cinnamon and skip the bacon, sausage, and eggs.
I see.
But you know what? I'm talking to you. I mean, tonight's an interesting night because we're talking about demographic profiles of the new and intended RV buyer. And I'm sitting here at a campsite looking out at what river is it? The
Cooloosahatchee.
Cooloosahatchee. I keep thinking the Chattahoochee, but that's Alan Jackson. And you know what? When Monika comes on, we're going to talk about some very interesting stats with new buyers. But there's a couple places that I've been in the last week I wanted to share with you because we started off our trip with a night at the Spacious Skies Campground in Savannah, Georgia, at Savannah Oaks. And we talked about that 2 weeks ago. And we've got a special feature coming up with them in a couple weeks. But there are also a wide variety of other camping opportunities here in the great state of Florida. Because
which one you want?
Well, what do we got there?
Boynton Beach.
Yeah, let's go
here in DJT's airplane.
Oh yeah. Let's do the Trump thing because but before we
I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
We go into that. A couple days before that, we were at the Daytona 500 and Trump was there. And earlier that day, when we were in West Palm, we brought some guests by Mar-a-Lago. And then as I was driving across the state over to here, I drove by the Palm Beach airport and there was Trump's 757. And I slammed on my brakes, went over. You can see how close I was to it.
So they didn't give you a tour of the plane, huh?
You know what? They asked if I wanted to, but I didn't want to have to go through that security stuff. But since I have such a credible look, there was no security around to shoo us away. But the interesting thing is I'm told that Trump that's his second plane now. He's got another one, a 747, that he uses with a little more regularity. But the fact is, you're driving down the street, you look over, and there's Trump's plane. We're at the we're at the Daytona 500. You look over and there's Trump's limo, 20 feet from us.
That's right. You were right next to it. Yeah.
To the limo, and he was on the other side of it, getting his picture taken with a bunch of drivers. And Mar-a-Lago, you drive right up to it.
Right up to it. Come out that stop sign. It's right across the street from you. Yeah.
So that's one of the cool things with
you talked about being over here, but you didn't tell them where you are.
Well, right now I am just outside of Fort Myers at an Army Corps of Engineers campground right on the
Caloosahatchee.
Yep. And but a couple nights ago, we stayed at a Harvest Toast run by our friend Joel Holland. And this was pretty cool because this was in West Palm, and it was an active strawberry farm. And they also had a food store in there. And Bob, I will tell you this. We got watermelon the next morning, and we got guacamole the next morning. And I will tell you this, without question, fresh guacamole that's made in Florida and eaten in Florida is so much tastier than the stuff that we get shipped up to the Northeast.
You put guacamole on your watermelon?
No, I ate them separately.
Oh,
I got those little piece of pita breads to dip into the guacamole.
Oh, I see.
And
that video?
That was pretty cool. I think we have a video.
Yeah.
Here's a Harvest Toast facility in Florida, Boynton Beach, Florida, Bednar's Farms. And it was a quiet, beautiful night here, right behind the farm stand. We had two other RVs, one is already gone. But it was a great night for her.
So, Harvest Toast, again, we normally prefer commercial private campgrounds because of the amenities that are there, but there are times when we don't need them. And we will find Harvest Toast. And so many people that are members of Harvest Toast, I know Audrey Foley Egan is, but I don't know if they're on tonight because I think they're somewhere down south with a convertible. I don't know where they went. But so many of the Harvest Toast offerings now include electricity. And as we saw last week,
a lot of them have amenities. Now, what's the Corps of Engineers? Is that the one that you're at right now?
We're at right now.
You want that one?
Yeah, sure.
We are at an Army Corps of Engineers RV park in Florida. It's just spectacular. And I didn't realize that there are 2,500 of these across the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And you know what? This park is beautiful. There's only $30 a night, or $15 if you have a senior pass. Army Corps of Engineers. Have you tried out their parks?
You got one down in Cape Cod, right on the canal, right?
I think that's a state. Scusset Beach. I think that's
one. Okay.
Run by the state. The Corps of Engineers run the canal, but that park, Scusset Beach.
It's at Bourne State Park. Yeah.
Yep. But these are interesting. You find these at recreation.gov. Recreation.gov, and you put in the location, and there's thousands of them throughout the country.
Let's see who jumped on early, then we'll get Monika up.
Yep. And then when you, if you have the senior pass, it's half price. So these are regularly $30. We got it for $15 a night with full power and water, and has a dump station. So
right. Don and Pat on from Texas down at National RV Training Academy, and Jim Roy from Silver Moose Restorations in Maine. And I assume he's still got about a foot or two of snow up there, Mr. Roy. And we should have more. They're not all coming through. We'll catch up to those later. Why don't we bring our super guest on, Monika Geraci, RV PR spokesperson. That sounds awesome.
Guys.
That sounds important.
It's not. I'm just here to spread the good word about the RV industry and just try to make everyone look good. That's my job. Make the industry, make RVing, make everyone in the industry look good.
We always think of Go RVing, which is the pet project of RVIA or RV Industry Association, right? That's the new.
You got it. Yes. RV
Okay?
Industry Association.
And the fact that I am RVing as we speak, and the fact that I haven't shaved for 3 days because one of the reasons that people, and I looked at this profile, one of the reasons that people RV is unwind and relax. And
Absolutely.
Unwound.
But it doesn't say you don't have to shave.
He looks pretty relaxed.
I've been RVing for 40 years. I shave every day.
Yeah, well, that's whatever. Monika, a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight in this demographic profile, I went around at this campsite today, an hour ago, checked out those stats that your report came up with against the people that are my fellow campers. And you will be very amazed that whatever you paid for this report, it was pretty much verbatim in this campground.
That's great. That we love the anecdotal to back up the data. So yeah, I mean, we've done this study. We did it back in 2021 and now did it again, just released it a few weeks ago. There's a full 33-page public report. There's more for members of the RV Industry Association and the RV Dealers Association, but there's also 33 full pages of such great data on who today's RVer is. And spoiler, they're younger, more diverse, and have a lot of kids, or more kids than when we looked at this back in 2021, which is great for the future of the industry because we know those childhood memories really is a strong indicator for people who are going to RV later in their life.
But first, when you watch since COVID came out, and since the RV industry exploded in COVID, people are able to use their RV a lot more, and they're able to work remotely. And many times when you see a person being interviewed on Fox or NBC or CNBC or whatever, you see the book that they wrote behind them. They just happened to place it in the camera, okay? And right behind Monika, Bob, cut back to Monika for a second. You see an award that Monika has just happened to place within the camera, and we've already had 3 people down below say, DePietro, find out what that award is from Monika. So she's going to tell us.
I can see the comments too. No one's asked.
We have special comments.
Special comments. Okay.
Yes. So tell us what those awards are.
40 under 40. I got a couple of those back there.
Okay. So you're going to win it again next year?
No longer eligible.
See, they lost out on that.
Okay, Tommy, go on with your boring stuff.
Let Monika walk through these.
This is one of my favorite slides that is in the whole report because it really shows that difference between 2021 and it was 2021. So it was halfway through the pandemic was when we did the study before. And you can see that the biggest takeaway probably is that median age going from 53 to 49. And then the diversity, there's, 2021, 85% white, and it's 73% white now. So there's been significantly more diversity coming into the industry. And then, like I said, the children under 18 in the home, 34% back in 2021, and it's 43% now. So almost half of RV owning households have a child under 18 in the home.
Well, Monika, that is dead on because yesterday, the people that were parked next to us, they came in a Cruise America vehicle, and the parents looked to be in mid-30s, and they had a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old. 4 years and 4 months. Okay, and we're seeing more and more of that with multiple kids, not just one child. And this trip we haven't seen as many grandchildren with grandparents as you see during the summer. But that and I always used to get median and average mixed up, and I know there's a difference, but no matter which way you define it, the numbers, the ages are definitely getting younger, especially when you go to the Class Bs in the adventure vans. They're a totally different demographic than the Class A's.
Well, you'll see a lot more kids camping during school vacation down here. So you came down. Now, next week is spring break here in the Fort Myers, Naples area.
Hold on.
They won't be there. What are you doing?
No, I didn't.
He's yelling at a kid.
Either that or his wife.
My neighbor,
Petro?
There was a launch that just went up just this second, and I forgot to look for it.
So you'll see it on the 11 o'clock news.
A SpaceX launch. He was knocking on the door because we were trying to figure out where to watch, and my wife forgot to go out and watch it. So, but see, that's another cool thing with RVing. The last week we were over on the East Coast, and there were two rocket launches that took place, and we were just north of Canaveral, and we could see them.
That's really cool.
But RVers flock to, just like RVers flock to the what's that thing with the moon?
The eclipse. No, astrotourism. I think that's the term that's being thrown out, and that's a thing. And not just for RVing, for tourism in general, but it's big for RVing. I mean, the eclipse was huge for the industry last year. One of the coolest things we did last year, go RVing. I don't know if you guys remember this. The RV clips. Like I still got the glasses.
RV sunglasses.
Yeah.
Get them here. Get them while they're hot. Right.
Yeah. But I think that's what it's called. Astrotourism is huge.
As opposed to agritourism, which I was just involved with 2 nights ago.
All right. Let me see what else we got here.
Camping at a farm.
Ooh. This, I'm going to probably say this multiple times, but this is actually probably my favorite stat. Is on the left, you have the median numbers of days used, and it's up 50%. So we know, and anyone who's familiar with the industry, we know it like took off like a rocket, like down there by you, John, in early pandemic, and then it's leveled off. But what we know is that people who bought RVs, they're very happy with them and they're using them. The median days of usage was 20 back in 2021, and it's 30 now. And people using their RVs is an indicator as to whether or not they're going to stay in the lifestyle. And a stat that's also in there, I don't know that you have this slide, is that 86% of RV owners are using their RVs as much or more than they expected. So that's up, I think it's 5 or 6 points over what it was in 2021. So people are using them more. They're using more than they expected. And then this other stat on the screen was something that we get asked, and we don't have a comparison to 2021 because we didn't ask it in 2021, but it gives a good picture of, again, this is the median. And so 9 trips a year and going about 250 miles for each of those trips. So John, median is, if you've got 10 data points, let's go 11. The 6th data point is the median. So it's directly in the middle. And you do median instead of average because average can skew something. If you've got one really big outlier, averages can be skewed. Whereas median, you're taking those middle data points. So 250 miles is what most people are going on their trips. Or yes.
Let me verify what you just said, Bob, before we go to that. The neighbor who just knocked on my door and said, "Did you see the launch?" Okay. 2 hours ago when I was reading this report, I said to him and his wife, "How many days a year do you RV?" And he said, "The equivalent of 4 weeks, which is 28 days." Okay. And I said, "You are dead on with what this report said." Okay. Now,
That's awesome.
they interestingly own 2 RVs. They keep one in Michigan and one down here in Florida, so they don't have to schlep it back and forth. So that's
a good idea.
That's very rare. But there you go. I mean, again, there's your report, and here's the reality, and they match up. They match up.
Let me see what this next one in that thing.
So we know that RVs are a gateway to the great outdoors and outdoor recreation. And so this just shows what people are doing while they're RVing, and also what they're bringing with them. And a lot of this is what you would expect, right? Bicycles, kayaks, people are fishing, they're visiting local attractions, they're going hiking, water. 30% of people are doing water activities. So I don't think there were any real big surprises in this list, but it's really good to see what people are bringing with them. Now, probably e-bikes. I bet e-bikes are, I don't know that we asked that back in 2021, but if I had to guess, I bet e-bikes are up from where they were.
Yep, they're up, and I see
that 11%.
I see them being used now almost as much as regular bikes on this trip. And interestingly, 33% of the bicycles, I think I've seen more than that. I've seen probably about 40 or 50%. We saw a lot of the ATVers a couple days ago because there must have been some big event in Central Florida. So they have their RV, usually a Super C, and they're pulling those big vehicles with them. And Bob, can you put that back up again?
Sure.
Because what we're seeing is pretty much, I see a lot more people. I'm surprised it's only 11% on the secondary vehicle, because I'm seeing probably 40% of people towing. Motorboat, I don't see that much. Kayak, not that much. Motorcycle, I hardly see them towing a motorcycle at all. Well, no, the big Class A's are carrying the motorcycles. And
toy haulers, lots of toy haulers.
Here's one that you can use for your next survey. Okay. And we see this on 95 all the time. You see the big Class A diesel pusher towing a pickup truck with a golf cart in the back of the pickup truck.
They want to get it all.
I said, these people are adverse to walking.
Clearly.
They didn't bring their portable gym with them or their treadmill. They don't engage with that at all.
Not at all.
Okay. Let's see what this one does.
So this is a little bit deeper dive into that current RV owner. So pulling up some things like 50% are college graduates. You've got 88% own their own home. 67% are married. 36% are first-time owners. So that means maybe they've owned it for 10 or 15 years, but that means that they're on their first RV. 31% are young families. So that's where I said 43% have children under 18 in the home. What we're considering young families are the parents are under 45 and they have children in the home. And then a breakdown of where people are living, not geographically, but 34%. I don't think any of this is going to be terribly surprising, but 34% are suburban, 29% are countryside or rural, a quarter are urban, and then 13% are in a small city / large town. So 25% are urban and 75% are not. So that's probably about what's expected. 54% have that childhood camping or RVing experience that I mentioned before is so important. It really, not that clearly 46% of people don't have that experience and they're still RV owners, but it does, our path to purchase that we put out last year really dug deep into that when someone doesn't have those childhood camping or even better RVing experience, getting to yes on RV purchase is just a little bit harder for them than people who have those childhood memories. So 54% have those, which is great. And having all those kids out in RVs is building that for the future. Speaking of kids, 20% are homeschooling children, and 22% are working from home. So, these are trends that have come in the last 5 years, obviously since COVID, both the homeschooling as well as working from home / working from the road have increased.
That's an interesting note. 20% seems really high. You think it may be high because of our industry, and these people, not only do they homeschool, but they travel while they're doing the child's education. Do you think that contributes to that figure at all?
Yeah, and I don't have how the question was phrased in front of me, because it could have been like, have you homeschooled or do you? And we all homeschooled. If you have kids, we've all homeschooled in the last 5 years. I don't homeschool, except when COVID made me. But so I don't know, taking kids out and experiencing the country firsthand in an RV was a big thing that people were doing, particularly during the pandemic. So I don't know if that's skewed a little bit higher based on what people have done recently and maybe not what they're doing currently right now.
Yeah, the description on that one says, while RV owners are an incredibly varied group in demographics, lifestyle, and motivation, they are united by their love of nature and the freedom their RVs provide to explore the great outdoors on their own terms. So yeah, that matches up with it. Actually, I split that slide in half because there was so much data on that slide. So that was one portion of it.
Well, yeah, I haven't even got to the other side of the slide, which is our segment breakdown, so it's important to know, especially being able to make those comparisons like I was doing at the top of the median age going from 53 to 49, things like that. You have to look at the current RV owner as a whole. But as anyone who is even a little familiar with the industry knows, there's not a single type of RV owner. There's not a single type of RV. There's an RV for every lifestyle and price point. That also means there's a lot of different RVers. So that segment breakdown that you see in the pie chart, we looked at these different segments and we broke them up into 7. And they were broken out based on behaviors and not so much just demographics. So you can see the biggest is casual campers. And those are people who use their RVs the least. It's about 20 days a year. So they're happy. They're perfectly happy with RVing, but it's not something they're not RVers first. These are casual campers, as the name implies. And the next biggest, almost as big, 30% are family campers. So those are the people who are camping with their kids. So that's a really big segment of the RV industry. It's a big target of Go RVing to grow that even bigger. 20% are avid RVers. So these are people who, and the family campers are about that 30 days a year. Avid RVers, that makes up, escapists makes up 20%. And they're just trying to get out there and RV as much as they can. We've got avid RVers are 8%. They're using them about 3 or 4 months a year. We've got long haulers, which we did. So we called them full timers last time in this, but that's not like what full timers means is a tricky word, because some people are like, I'm full timing. I have a home, but I'm in my RV for 6 months and I'm full timing right now. And then there are people who truly sold their house and they are full timing. So this asks people to self-identify as full timers when we ask them how long they're using it. So we were trying to make it less confusing by not just calling them full timers, because that could be a misnomer for some of the people in here. But these are the people who are spending extended amount of times in their RVs. Then we have snowbirds, which I think we called happy campers last time, which we just were like, that doesn't necessarily give you, we're trying to make sure the words explain what they are. And these are snowbirds. These are people who are using them 6 months a year. And they make up 4%. And then the adventure seekers, they only make up 1%, but their attitudes and activities were so different. Like they're the ones who are out there rock climbing and doing more of that adventure seeking, that we found it important to break this segment out, even though it's a small 1% of the RV owners.
Yep.
Now, are we, as an industry, are we now adopting these 7? Is this being sent out to the dealers, and is the industry adopting this, or is this just some way that you could collect more accurate data for the survey?
So this is in the, and we made these public this time, there is in the public facing report, there are 2 whole pages of data on each of these clusters. So for people who are looking to understand the industry, but really for the manufacturers, dealers, suppliers, people, campground owners who are wanting to know more about their customer, we're breaking it down so you can see the demographic breakdowns, the motivating factors, what the most popular RV types that they use, who's going with them, how they financed or if they financed their RV purchases. There's a lot of data on each of these clusters. So we're not saying that this is what the industry needs to do all their marketing around these 7 clusters. It's what, working with Ipsos, who did the study, these are what were identified as, it's the psychographs. So we do demographics and then the psychographs. So this is kind of where they shook out.
So one interesting aspect of that adventure seekers way over on the right, which is only 1%, I've seen a lot more of those units in the past 2.5 weeks that we've been on the road. You know, big 4-wheel drive vehicles with, solar and not electric bikes on them, but mountain bikes, because those 2 don't match. However,
well, actually, no, they do. They now have mountain e-bikes.
Right. But here's my point. In another show that Bob and I do, we just read that Giant RV Center has opened. Where was that? In California?
Downey, California. And tell them what Downey, California is famous for.
The home of the first McDonald's restaurant. Okay. But
we are like that, trivia, because the original Dunkin' Donuts is in Quincy, Massachusetts. Right. So we like, now, John, this is important. Where's the original Waffle House?
In Georgia. And I was in the first Waffle House in Fort Myers today, and it looked every bit of it. But
I don't know how to interpret that. I haven't been.
This is not like a ringing endorsement.
John, when I go to Fort Myers, I go to Krispy Kreme.
Well, I can't afford to go to Krispy Kreme. I can't afford medically to go to Krispy Kreme. But here's what I'm saying. I was on a serious note with Monika's stats, and Zagami, you just try to railroad it off to the side. Here's the deal. For a giant dealership like that called Giant RV to devote an entire store with just adventure vans and overland vans, no Class A's, no Class C's like the Tiffin Wayfarer or the Winnebago View or Navion, but the Revel, the Solus, the Echo, the Overland brand, and all those others that are designed for off-road thrill seeking. One whole store. That means that they've done some research, or they're totally off base to devote an entire to that.
I've got
Is this Southern California?
Yeah, it's in the Los Angeles area. But I've got a call into the president, because I did some aerial shots of it, and I think what they did, the press release looks good, but I think they took a section they got a gigantic building, and I saw some of the Class B's outside. On the inside, they got the whole building is a phenomenal indoor showroom, and I think they took and segmented a section of it. So when you do look at the press release and they talk about a building, I think they're inside this gigantic building. They got like a 1950s cafe in there. I mean, it's a beautiful setup for a consumer to go and look at many different types of RVs.
Well, but and that segment is, they don't necessarily see themselves as RVers. They
That's
do
right.
see themselves as
Yes.
the adventure seekers. There are some great brands that lean into that and know, like, you know, not to be disrespectful to the RV industry as a whole, but like knowing their community. And that's what we do this demographic profile for. It's providing data to the industry to better know your customer so that you can build product, you can meet their needs, you can forecast what the next trend is going to be. And so those companies that really know their customer and they're like, you know what, they want to go into a showroom that speaks to them, that speaks to this adventure seeker. They're not interested in the Class A or the Class C. Like this, they want those adventure vans. Let's give it to them and give them that.
And that's where I think that they did something really good, because all of the units in that particular, I think it's, like I said, a special section, but all of them speak to that client. Because if you go back 10 years ago, we had traditional RVs, and then all of a sudden we had Class Bs. And most of our dealers wouldn't carry Class Bs because in their mind, it was a niche product. And it was only growing 1 or 2% a year. Then all of a sudden, the consumers said, I want something different, and it's growing 10, 15, 25% a year, to a point where it's still our fastest growing segment in the industry. Now, around 5-year mark, we started seeing these overland vehicles. But as to your point, those overland people, they probably didn't even know what RVIA was. They were in a completely different world. It was a completely different audience. But John and I were, we should go back and check our old tapes, but we were early on to say at some point in time, the traditional RV dealer and the overlander are going to come together. They have to come together because of the wide range of demographics, from 18 and 19-year-old people to 80 and 90-year-old people. And that's exactly what, and I think Giant RV is ahead of that, because it goes back like that 10 years ago. You went to a dealer lot and you saw travel trailers and you saw motorhomes, and over there was one Class B. Well, who the hell is going to make a decision on one Class B? It's still the learning process. And you saw that with Overland, and now people like Storyteller Overland, which was one of the first companies to really go into mass production with these Overland vehicles. Now they're setting up RV dealers. We've got dealers that now sell along with the others, but they carry more to it. And in the product lines, that press release, they sell Gretsch. Well, Campers Inn up here sells Gretsch, and you go to a consumer show and you see a Gretsch RV Class B, it starts at about $250,000. I mean, so
Class Bs are crazy. Like
it's absolutely crazy. And I just saw something the other day about that new. Well, they've kind of changed the design a little bit on the Airstream Atlas, which is really a Class C.
I was in one today, Bob. I was in one today at North Trail RV.
Yep.
And the MSRP on that Atlas is $325,000.
That's where I was going. Yep, you're right.
$325,000, and there's 2 seats up front, okay, and a couch facing sideways. You can't even put seat belts on it.
And it's a Murphy bed. The couch is a Murphy bed.
It's got a Murphy bed. So I said, who's going to buy this? Well, somebody will buy it. Now, at the same time, look back 12 to 15 years ago. I looked at that Winnebago Revel, and I said, in my infinite wisdom, 1 year of these things, and you'll never see these again. Okay.
And I was much smarter than John, because I said to Mike Happy and Dwayne Cyrus and all the people at Winnebago, who the hell came up with this idea? It was this thing is never going to sell. That's why we're on TV and they make RVs.
So these are some of my favorite stats. I used to get to quote them all the time, particularly when Class Bs were growing so fast. But so I'm going to give you one stat. I want you to guess the next one. In 2011, there were 1,900, less than 2,000. There were 1,900 Class Bs shipped. What do you think we're going to do 2022? How many do you think were built in 2022?
22?
In 2022, when just shy of 500,000 RVs total were built. For context, in 2011, Class Bs made up 0.75% of shipments, less than 1% of total shipments. So 2022, how many Class Bs were built?
40 grand.
Class Cs or Class
Oh,
C?
well, okay. It's 17,000. Went from less than 2,000 to in 2022, there were 17,000, and it made up 3.5% of total shipments. So this is why it's like such a cool story, and I love talking about Class Bs. I'm like, they've grown so exponentially. They still make up a small segment of the industry, like even with how fast they've grown, but they make up a significantly larger portion of the industry, because remember, motorized only makes up 10%, 10 to 12, depending on the year. So when you've got Class Bs who are making up less than 1%, so that was like 10% of all motorized. Now they're making up 3.5% of total shipments. And so they're making up like 33% of total motorized. So,
and we know that because the Class C is the most preferred motorhome for families. It's the ideal. So as we see more families getting into RVing, they tend to gravitate more towards Cs. They don't want the big As. They can't survive with the small Bs. So Cs, and that's also a reason why we're seeing a lot of Super Cs. So a lot of the people that were doing As are coming down to Super Cs. So now everybody wants to jump in and get into the Super C arrangement, because if you like a Class C and you have 2 or 3 more kids, you're probably going to buy a Super C.
Okay. Now, let's go to reality here. I know one of the next slides coming up is the percentage of each category, but I will tell you this, in reality, in this park, it's about 29 or 30 spots. And 2 hours ago, I drove around and checked out every one of them. Okay. Class C, 6 units. An A-liner pop-up, 1 unit. Class A, 4 units. Class B, 4 units. Travel trailers, 10 units. Fifth wheels, 3 units. 1 truck camper, and 1 tent. The guy was traveling a Corvette, and he had a tent. Okay. So, interestingly, I don't know how those figures work with the 80-20 rule with 80%.
Well, we're not 80 now. Now we're down to about 73% on towables.
Yep.
So, but that drop, the towables going down to 73 is a reflection again of the camper vans and the Class B. So I think that the section that's going down is moving over into a smaller motorized unit. To do that.
Hey, Bob, let's say hi to some of our people here.
I was thinking the same thing. We've neglected them. They won't come back. Let's see what we got. We go all the way back to the top. We had Don Hawes, Jim Roy. You didn't tell me how many feet of snow you got left. Oh, about a foot of snow left. It's been in the 50s and melting this week. Charlie Butler, snowy New York. Yep. Don. Just me tonight. Pat's on a cruise in the Bahamas with our daughter and her daughters. Oh, the old grandmother, mother-daughter cruise. And they left you behind. What's shaving?
Jim Roy has a beard.
Oh,
when I said I have
that, there you go. Yeah, right. You're right. John didn't shave, so people won't mistake him for Trump. Oh, okay, good. Mr. Murray from Manchester, New Hampshire. Is the New Hampshire show this weekend? This guy has been, he's been to Florida. He took his daughter to Florida for vacation. And then he was all over the place. He was in Pennsylvania. He does shows all the time for Pete's RV. But how are you in Manchester, New Hampshire, when your guys are setting up at Champlain Fairgrounds for the special Pete's RV Vermont show this weekend? You can't be in 2 places at once, Randy.
What? They're doing an outdoor show?
No, they're inside a building at the Champlain Fairgrounds. It's a huge huge building. They were just loading it in today.
Yeah.
Mass Food Sam, I assume this is Rhonda. We use hours April to November, back and forth, just about every weekend. Oh, that's using the RV, Thanksgiving, and then put away. And they camp with their little group right up through Thanksgiving. In fact, don't you do Thanksgiving at Scusset Beach, Rhonda? And I think Joe must be tired this year, because Joe does snow plowing on the side, and for the last 3 years he hasn't been snow plowing anything. So he's in his glory. He just probably comes home and falls asleep. So tell Joe we said hello. And Mr. Cole, hey there, everyone. Hello to you, sir. Haven't seen you for a while.
And special birthday congratulations to Jason Cole Jr., who's probably
I didn't see that.
We used to see him when he was 10 years old at these rallies, and now he's 23.
Michael DePietro, your brother, is back from Florida. So he does his trip to Smyrna Beach, is it, and Daytona, and I assume you spent some time with him at Daytona.
We did.
You did. All right. So we're getting close. Let's see what slide 17 has to say here. Cool.
Oh, so this is the details, and this is only a little bit. I think you cut this slide in half also.
I did. Yeah.
About family campers. So like I was saying, this is a lot of that same information that we were talking about for RVers as a whole, but here we have it just for those family campers. They're 100% is 18 to 54, because again, these are the families. 75% work full-time, 2% retired. 61% have an income over 75,000. And this little green arrow here means that is higher than the other segments. And you've got the growth audiences, so 35%. And so growth audiences are Black, Asian, Hispanic, LGBTQ plus. So areas of opportunity for the industry, right? RVing's for everyone. Everyone should get out and RV. So also looking at where those growth audiences are. And then is higher, 62% have that childhood RV camping experience. And like we talked about earlier, 30%, this makes up 30% of all RVers.
Hey, Monika, one very interesting thing that you just said, that high percentage of people, 62%, that had childhood camping experiences. We did an interview with some people. Actually, it's our show this week on the Camp Report show with there was 4 guys that got together that were lifelong friends from Winter Haven, Florida, that go to Daytona 500. And the guy was saying, we used to come, my grandfather would come to the Daytona 500 when I used to still run it on the beach. But he said,
a while ago.
We would sit up on top of our house, which was in the infield, because half of the track was on A1A and half of the track was on the beach in Daytona. Yep. We run into so many families on this trip that just in casual conversation said, I grew up camping. We started out in a pop-up, then we moved to a travel trailer, then we moved to a motorized. But let me bring up one other topic here that's not in these stats. At Daytona, we ran into so many people that had these big, gigantic 45-foot Prevost diesel conversions. I don't think we call them RVers.
No, we don't count them in the industry stats either.
So they likely would be captured in here, and if they called it a Class A, we don't obviously throw like shipment numbers and things like that. If it doesn't have a seal on the side of it, if it's not built to an FPA 1192, it's not counted. Just like those stats I was rattling off earlier about Class Bs, there's a whole bunch of van conversions that don't fall into that because it doesn't have a seal on it. It wasn't built to 1192. This survey, and it's a survey that was done by Ipsos, the national, like very renowned research firm. It is a survey. So We didn't ask them to show us the seal on the side of their unit. So if they said yes, if they're one of these Prevost owners and they say, yes, I'm an RVer and it's a Class A, then they could be captured in here.
Yep. And the same with the vans, because to your point, a lot of them they're not RVIA certified.
Exactly.
But they may own one of those and be counted that way.
But they're generally not campground people. Generally, you don't see them as, I mean, you see them periodically at a campground, but
you're talking about a bus conversion. Yeah, right. You're not going to see them. Very seldom will you see them in a campground.
Yeah.
I mean, when they go to Daytona, they go for 2 weeks and just sit up on the hill and spend their time there. So the other half of 17 was this, Monika.
So there's just and there's, you split one slide in half, and there's a whole nother slide on just these family campers, and then same for all of the different clusters. But this is where we really get into more detail, how they financed it. 76% bought new. Did they buy it in person or virtually? In person, still way, way, way more popular. But again, this could capture people who today just bought it online, or definitely during the pandemic.
But they did all their
research. Yeah, what?
But they did the bulk of their research online before they walked into the dealership. Does that sound plausible?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So this is like resources that people use, and this is what I know you guys talk to a lot of dealers. This is so important that both the resources used during the buying process from the digital side or print is dealers' websites. 49%, that was a primary resource. And then for that experiential, 47%, it was at the dealership. So of course, borrowing an RV, this is a higher percentage of these family campers have borrowed an RV. And then talking to other people, those are important, but I don't want to misspeak, but on all of them that I can think of, that dealer websites and the dealerships are the top. They're definitely the top three. But for the overall RV owner, and then definitely for most of the clusters, that dealer experience.
What did you put in that experiential? What's in that group?
So the difference between, did I see something? Did I see an ad? Did I go to a manufacturer's website? Did I go to a dealer's website? Did I look on YouTube? Or did I go out and do something in person? Did I go to an RV show? Did I go to a dealership?
Okay,
did I borrow a friend?
So you experienced it first.
Yeah.
So because I wanted to see on the dealership, because I agree with the numbers, and they're getting a lot more activity that way. We all know they do their research on it, but to the point that 6% do virtually, and most people are coming well prepared. And that's the one thing that the dealers do like about it, is that it's a more informed consumer that has really done a lot of homework. And then they're much more serious when they say, all right, let's go to the dealership. So in essence, the Go RVing campaign has done a lot of the pre-work for them. And I know the dealers appreciate it, because the customers are easier to deal with. You can bond with them. You can establish a relationship early on in the discussion, and you're getting a more qualified prospect.
Okay. Monika, we just have a few minutes left, and there's a lot of stats here to go over, but I want to ask you a question to see if this was asked by the IPSO people. And I'll give you the question straight out. Did you buy a camper, RV, camper, whatever you want to call it, after renting one?
Yes. We did ask the impact of rental.
Rental first.
I don't know the stats off the top of my head. It was overwhelmingly positive, the impact of renting. Let me see.
First, because
we did ask like what percentage of people rented before they bought, and then what was the impact of renting. And if I remember correctly, I want to say it was less than 50% had rented before they bought, but it was overwhelmingly that it was a positive experience.
So those that did rent were more likely.
Rental. Have you ever rented or considered renting an RV? 20% had rented, and 32% had not rented but had considered it. And it was pretty evenly split. We asked where they rented it from. So was it from an RV rental company, think like a Cruise America? Was it from a dealer, or was it from a peer-to-peer? And it was 33% from that rental company, 30% from a dealer, and 27% from a peer-to-peer.
Interesting.
And then the statement, renting an RV has had a positive impact on my decision. 79%, we did break this down by motorized and towable. So 79% of motorized owners who had rented before they bought said it created a positive impact for them. And then 72% of towable owners said that it was a positive experience that positively impacted.
Those are amazing numbers, almost 80% in both of those categories.
Okay.
We have a dealer in New England, Fuller RV, that their whole slogan is try it before you buy it. Because you might not like it. Now, interestingly,
or you might not like that one. There may be another one that is better for you.
Right, and they have everything from, they rent everything from pop-up trailers to 45-foot diesel pushers, and even now they have some destination trailers, and they'll take those to the campground. All right, we're coming up against I'll give you this is your grand finale slide, Marsha. So the timing was very good. Good thing we don't practice this stuff.
So I love this because this shows what we also asked about intenders. And intenders is someone who said that they are likely to purchase an RV in the next 5 years. And that was 16.9 million households said that they were likely to. That's the people who would like to. A number of those are aspirational. But we looked at the demographics for those intenders. And then, like I talked about a little bit earlier, those growth audience intenders. So this slide shows the difference between current owners and then those intenders and then the growth audience. And it's basically a line of, it gets younger, obviously more diverse as we move across the slide. But younger, more families, and more diverse is some of the biggest takeaways. And then also when you're looking at the growth audiences, a call out there is more multi-generational households that are seeing like RVing as a great way to travel together in those multi-generational households.
Yep.
Interesting.
Not necessarily in the same RV.
Yeah, maybe they need separate RVs. They live together, so maybe they need 2 RVs. Or they live together, so being in an RV and vacationing together is
These stats are very interesting. We always talk about the North American Camping Report that our friend from Maine, what's his name?
Scott Barr.
Puts together for KOA. I think he does some work with you as well.
Yes,
but these are really interesting because they're probably the closest generalizations to reality that I've come across, in the fact that I'm out here right now camping and was able to match these two up. It's nice to see the theoretical and the reality merge and mesh. So good job on this.
Yeah. Monika, thank you very much for joining us. I got Marsha Galvin on my mind because she's my interview for the Camper Report show. It's amazing that John and I get both shows right every week. I mean, I'm surprised.
You wear the right shirts. I have the wrong shirt on.
You got the wrong shirt. No, it's not the wrong shirt, but yeah, not the show shirt. Any last words for our fans? And we certainly appreciate you taking time to come on tonight.
Monika,
I appreciate you guys having.
Where can they go to look at this report?
I was scrolling all night on the bottom. It's in the chat also.
Yeah, RVIA.org and reports and trends, and it's the top one there. So I'm sure you can Google it as well. But the 2025 Go RV owner demographic profile. Like I said, if you're a member of RVDA has it on their side as well. If you're a member of RVDA, there is a public report that 33 pages that gives you so much information. And then if you are a member of the RV Industry Association or RVDA, you can get the even more extensive. And then, but wait, there's more. We are actually doing we're actually doing 6 additional reports that are going to come out over the next probably 2 to 3 months. We do a deep dive into first-time owners or people who bought during COVID, young families, the Gen Z and millennials. We've got former owners, we've got intenders, and then those growth audience intenders. So these are going to be all special reports that are members only, but they'll be like a 1-pager that will be available for.
We figured out it's more reasons for you to want to be on our show.
I just want to be weekly.
We can arrange that.
Monika, this is our 8th season. This is our 8th year.
I think it's 9.
On this show. No, it's the 8th. Don't start that again. John, he'd come on one week and say, well, this is our 9th year. And next week he'd say, oh, this is our 10th year. And I'd say, no, I went back and checked all the way to the beginning.
Our 22nd season.
This is our legitimate 8th season.
It's been around since Facebook started 20 years ago.
50 weeks a year.
There you go.
It's very impressive what you guys do here. It's great.
We enjoy it. We enjoy it, and we always enjoy it when you get a chance to come on. And
you should tell our audience that Monika has at least 5 years at Northeastern, so she's not just a Texan right now, and not from Reston, Virginia, but got some. I'm
a very baby Texan, I don't even know if I can call myself a Texan. It's not even been 3 years, but I spent 7 years in Back Bay, Mission Hill.
Yeah, I had 8 years at Northeastern because I did it through night school. 8 years of 2 nights a week and Saturdays.
He was flunking out. That's right. It took him 8 years to do 4. He jammed 4 years of college into 8.
There you go.
Hey.
No, Northeastern, 5 years. Get a 4-year degree. 3 years.
5 years for the co-op. Yep.
Co-op.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Co-op. Yep.
Go
Great
Huskies.
school.
Yes.
Yes. All right, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, fans. I'm sorry we didn't get to too many of you tonight, but I think you enjoyed the quality of the program. So we'll see you all down the road.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank
Let's go RVing.
Yes.
Like I'm going to.
This edition of RVing in New England was a presentation of the New England RV Dealers Association. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.